Oh, I can finish. I'm finished already.
Clap. Go home.
All right. Y'all finish this phrase out for me. Say the G-rated one.
Yeah.
A hard head makes a
Soft behind.
right. That's quoted by every black parent ever.
It wasn't the G version.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
That's who that quote comes from. Every black parent ever. So we're gonna go through Deuteronomy chapter 29, start about verse 9, go through 21. And what we're gonna look at is just the mindset that we have and what I call the appetite of the flesh. What it desires versus what the Most High desires. So there's Torah, and then there's Torah my way. Y'all recognize that? There's Torah. Here's what it says. But my thing is, but I don't think, but ain't nothing wrong with, well, you know, traditionally, well, we always, how many more do I need to say?
It don't take all that.
Yeah, it don't take all that. There you go. So let's turn to Deuteronomy, Devarim chapter 29. And I want to use this kind of to lay a foundation. But first I want you to understand where this is. So just remember that in Deuteronomy 29, we're at the mountain. We're in between those two mountains in that valley. So you have the valley of Shechem. And this is, you can see this in chapter 27. Chapter 27 kind of sets up where you're at and what's happening. And so we are well into their journey in this wilderness experience. As into the tune of 39-ish years out of the 40. So with that said, they are now in the valley of Shechem. Somebody tell me, what is significant about this valley? What do they see? Standing in this valley, what do they see?
On one side.
They see two mountains. They see Mount Gerizim on one side and Mount Ebal on the other side. What's happening from Mount Gerizim?
Blessing.
Blessings are being pronounced, are being spoken. Yahweh called for 6 of the elders of the tribes to climb that mountain and to, from the top of that mountain, to begin to speak blessings. That's Mount Gerizim. It's a very green and lively and watered, well-watered mountain. It was probably a very nice, beautiful walk up the mountain to go to the point that they could begin to speak out over the people. Probably a very enjoyable time as those 6 elders went up that mountain. They probably along the way saw some animals and beautiful flowers and trees that are in full bloom and this and that. But what was happening on Mount Ebal? What was being pronounced?
Curses.
Curses. Curses were being spoken from that mountain. How many tribes were sent up that mountain?
6. 6.
6 tribes were sent up that mountain. So 6 tribes now. Here's the thing about Mount Evil. It's very slick and kind of smooth limestone sort of surface. No water that's running down to water that inside of the mountain. So not a whole lot of green, not a whole lot of plants, probably not a whole lot of animals, not a whole lot of life at all, more than likely. And they're speaking curses. So as they stand in this wilderness, in this valley, they are looking at life. And life is being spoken. Then they're looking at dead stuff. And curses are being spoken. What is the instruction that Yahweh gave when he told them that they had this choice of life, blessings, death, curses? What did he tell them?
Choose life.
Choose life. So he gave them the answer. He said, hey, Mount Gerizim is the answer to the test. If he tells them the answer, why? I mean, what's the big deal? If you know the answer to a test, wouldn't you just get it right? Oh, it's not that simple? You mean we can't just recognize Mount Gerizim as soon as we see it? It's green, life, water, streams, blessings. You hear it. He even told you the people who's making the calls out. But note that he still had to tell them what to choose. So this is the setting as we get to Deuteronomy 28, which says you're blessed in this instance when you obey. You're cursed in this instance when you disobey. And then in chapter 29. And so he is establishing his people. And in establishing his people, he's establishing them in a way that they can sustain. So it's important that they use his wisdom and not their own. So let's read chapter 29, verse 9 through verse 21. And then we'll go back and begin to kind of break that down. So it reads, therefore you shall guard the words of this covenant and do them, so that you prosper in all that you do. All of you are standing today before Yahweh your Elohim, your leaders, your tribes, your elders and your officers, all the men of Israel, your little ones, your wives, and your sojourner who is in the midst of your camp, from the one who cuts your wood to the one who draws your water, so that you should enter into covenant with Yahweh your Elohim and into his oath, which Yahweh your Elohim makes with you today, in order to establish you today as a people for himself. And he himself be your Elohim, as he has spoken to you, and as he has sworn to your fathers, to Abraham, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov. And not with you alone I am making this covenant and this oath, but with him who stands here with us today before Yahweh our Elohim, as well as with him who is not here with us today. For you know how we dwelt in the land of Mitzrayim, and how we passed through the nations which you passed through. And you saw their abominations and their idols, wood and stone, silver and gold, which were with who? Them. Lest there should be among you, among who?
You.
Among you. You saw that stuff with them. But lest there should be among you a man or woman or clan or tribe whose heart turns away today from Yahweh our Elohim to go and serve the mighty ones of these nations. Now the nations become that example that you saw. Lest there should be among you a root bearing bitterness or wormwood. Verse 19. And it shall be, when he hears the words of this curse, that he should bless himself in his heart, saying, I have peace. I have shalom. I have completeness. I have completeness. Though I walk in the stubbornness of my heart, in order to add drunkenness to thirst. Yahweh would not forgive him, but rather the displeasure of Yahweh, and his jealousy shall burn against that man, and every curse that is written in this book shall settle on him. And Yahweh shall blot out his name from under the heavens, and Yahweh shall separate him for evil out of the tribes of Israel, according to all the curses of the covenant that are written in this book of the Torah. So, to go back to where we began by saying, therefore, you shall guard. Note that whenever you're told to guard something, it's for a reason. Whenever you're told to guard something, it's because somebody, either now or in the future, will attempt to take that which you are told you need to guard. That word shamar is a very strong word. Words that start with shin. But we're going to go over another word that starts with shin in a second here. But you're told to guard these words of this covenant. And it was so that you would prosper. And it was everybody, right? Look at who he named. Because what we hear too often is, well, I'm not Jewish. Well, I'm Christian. Well, that was for them. But let's read out who was there. It says your leaders, your tribes, your elders, your officers, all the men of Israel. If you haven't gotten a revelation yet that reigning with El, ruling with El, conquering with El makes you Israel, then okay, let's just keep reading. Your little ones, your wives, your sojourner who is in your midst. So you mean to tell me you covered the sojourner? And what does it say in 12? So that you should enter into covenant with Yahweh your Elohim. And then he goes on and he says, and by the way, it's not just for you who are standing here. 14, and not with you alone am I making this covenant and this oath. But what does 15 say? Who is it with? Those who are standing with us and him who is not here with us. Him who is not here with us. So what this really boils down to is your desired relationship with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? If the answer to that question is yes, then you are asking to be a part of that covenant.
All right.
If you're asking to be a part of that covenant, this covers you. If this covers you, then you are now accountable to what it says.
That's right. Yep.
So to remain a part of that covenant, he says, these are the results. When you do what I ask you to do, it brings life. When you disobey, it brings death. It's really that simple. But by the time we get down to 19, what does it say?
And it kept came to pass.
It says, and it shall be when he hears the words of this curse. So this is what happens, y'all, like for real, like literally today. Hear the words of this curse. And say, I have peace. How many times did you and I, and how often do we still hear others say, in walking contrary to the things that God himself has told his people who are in covenant with him to do, I have peace. I am whole and complete in my disobedience. Now, nobody will say those words for word, but they will absolutely tell you, I am not under the law. They will tell you, I do not have to do the law. They will tell you, I am not Jewish, so I don't have to keep the Jewish laws of Moses.
Yep.
So the laws of Moses, that terminology even in and of itself becomes a way to be able to separate the instructions that God gave to Moses to give to who? Israel. So you form this separation. So now, I always use this example. I have 2 kids. I call them a big one and a little one. When I'm talking about like picking them up and stuff, I'll be like, I gotta go get the little one. Or the big one got homework to do or whatever. So the big one, he's 14. The little one is 9. It don't matter which one of them I give the instructions to. If I give one of them instructions to give to the other one, and I don't preface it with, tell her daddy said, or tell him that I told you to tell him, it's going to come with something. Because they go upstairs, you need to clean your room. I don't got to clean my room. What are you talking about? You need to clean your room. But put daddy said in front of it. Okay.
Makes a difference.
Daddy said you got to clean your room. Okay. So when it's the laws of Moses, well, I mean, Moses is a man just like I'm a man. He was just talking to them. He wasn't talking to me. But how many times have you ever heard someone say, I am not under the laws of God? Have you ever heard anybody say those words?
Yeah.
You have? Man, they brave. I've never heard that said. I've heard the law, I'm not under the law. I'm not under the law of Moses. I'm not under the Old Testament law. I've heard all iterations, but it's never associating those instructions and commandments with the Creator himself. There's always a separation made. Because the second you say, Daddy said, now I got some responsibility. Because I'm supposed to listen to Dad, right? I'm supposed to listen. So this what we see in here, this phrase in 19 says, I have peace, though I walk in the stubbornness of my heart. That word caught me. I had to pause right there at that word. That word for stubbornness. It's this word right here. It's Sheri Yurah. And I could be mispronouncing that. I apologize if I am. To all of those fluent Hebrew speakers. I'm sorry. But it's H8307. Sheri Ruth. That might be it. Sheri Root. Sheri Root. That might be close. But it's stubbornness, hardness, firmness. There's an interesting thing about being stubborn in this way. Because it goes back to a root word, H8324. And this is, it's not just stubborn, but it's firm. Now let's think about that. Let's think about that. It's not just stubborn, it's twistedly stubborn and firm. And so, twisting, what is that? What is that? There are 2 definitions that we can boil down sin to. 2 definitions. First definition is sin of transgression. Sin of transgression, there is a line. You crossed the line. You have transgressed the law. That's very, very simple. When one transgresses the law, It means that they have moved beyond what the law says is, in fact, acceptable. That's it. They move beyond. They know it. The law knows it. Well, I won't say that they know it automatically, because sometimes people break laws and not realize it. Just didn't know the law. If you don't know the law and you break it, did you break it? Yeah, you still broke it. You absolutely still broke it. And so, now, here's the other one. Here's the other one. The other definition that we can boil sin down to is iniquity. Iniquity, sin of iniquity, is different from transgression in that there's a line, you take the line, move the line, and then say, I have not sinned. Because the line's right here.
Come on.
Let me say that again. Let me be more visual with it. All right. I'm going to be more visual with it. All right. Here's the line. Transgression. I went past the line. My bad. Let me come back. I went past the line. My bad. Let me come back. That's transgression. It means we've gone beyond the line. This is what iniquity looks like. This is what iniquity looks like. There's the line. I've gonna be. Wait a minute. I don't really like that line anyway. All right, I'm straight. That's iniquity. I have myself. Now, guess what I'm doing? Where was the line originally? I'm gonna put the dotted line right there so we can just visually know where it was. So now, here's what I'm doing. Chilling. Chilling. I'm all in here. I'm even go to my new line and be like, nah, I ain't gonna go that far. What am I convincing myself? That all of this is a free-for-all, right? That's iniquity. Because I'm not just gone beyond the line. Now I've moved the line and convinced myself it don't exist. And so when we look at that word for twisted, that's what iniquity is. It's crookedness. It's twisting. It's perverting. And so when we read this, and it says, and it shall be, verse 19, when he hears the words of this curse. He hears the words of this curse, y'all. He hears the words of the curse. He hears it. That he should bless himself in his heart, saying, whoo, he moved the line. So I have peace, though I walk in the stubbornness, twistedness of my heart. Of my heart. Because now this thing is according to me. In order to add drunkenness to thirst. Now I had still, y'all know, I'm just real honest. I had problems with the end of this verse, understanding it, and I don't think I got it all the way. But I've got two things that it's kind of narrowed down in my mind to. But to add drunkenness to thirst, if we looked at it in a few other versions, I went back to the 1611. I went to the Septuagint. I went to JPS. I went to a few different versions to try to see what this might be. But to add drunkenness to thirst, there's one thing that jumps out after looking at all of those other versions, and that is this, that it's taking what is wrong, going beyond what's legal, going beyond what's acceptable, and now lumping that together with what is acceptable. So adding, as in, because even that word, when you look up with that word, adding is like pushing together, like scraping to scrape. So it's like pushing together. So pushing together drunkenness to thirst. So for someone who says, I'm thirsty, here you go. Now, not thirsty anymore. But for someone who is fallen over stumbling, or as the word calls it, when you look at that word for drunkenness, it translates to watered. So someone, as they used to say back in the day, went to the watering hole. Somebody has gone to the watering hole, and now, because they're thirsty, they had to get something to drink. They just had to get something to drink because they were just thirsty, right? So now we lumping all this together. Now, I'm thirsty means I got to be falling out drunk. Is that how that works? What is it? It's a twisting. It's a twist. It's a perversion. Because now you're taking what is acceptable and moving the line. And now making that which is unacceptable acceptable. Which is why this person can say, in my heart, I have peace. This is why we can look at our brethren and say, can't you see the curses that are on our people?
Well, come on.
Can't you see them playing out? Can you not understand that there's the same reason that they're playing out is the same reason they will continue? Disobedience. Disobedience. And so we say, oh, well, I just need more God. That just means I'm going to go to church 3 days a week now.
Come on.
I just need to hear a word from pastor. I'm just going, every time there's some revival session, I'm going. Every time somebody comes in, Joel Osteen coming to town, y'all, we got to go. We got to get together and hear the word. But it's twisted. It's a twisted doctrine. A doctrine that confuses Gershom and evil.
That's good.
So let's take a look at Isaiah chapter 64. Isaiah chapter 64, and we're going to look at verses 3 through 8. All right, chapter 64, verse 3. When you did awesome matters, which we did not expect, you came down, mountains did shake before you. When did the mountains shake? Huh?
The commandments.
That's right, Mount Sinai. The mountain was shaking. Mount Sinai was shaking. And it says, since the beginning of the ages, they have not heard nor perceived by ear, nor has the eye seen any Elohim besides you, who acts for those who wait for him. You shall meet him who rejoices and does righteousness, who remembers you in your ways. See, you were wroth when we sinned in them a long time. In them a long time. And should we be saved? And all of us have become as one unclean, and all our righteousnesses are as soiled rags, and all of us fade like a leaf. And our crookednesses, and we go with this crookedness stuff, like the wind, have taken us away. Does that sound familiar? What does the wind take away? How does that come into play? Y'all know the scripture? Yes. A double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. Right, unstable. So what happens with unrighteousness? The chaff blows to and fro. What happens with the wheat? Because remember, threshing is done in a windy place. When it's thrown up, wheat falls back down because it has weight and substance. But chaff blows. The wind just takes it. in every wind and doctrine. And it goes here, and it goes there. And the next thing you know, it's praising this God. Next thing you know, it's saluting to this God. And it's got this idol. And it's got that holy day. That's what happens. That's what happens with the chaff. And so, verse 7. And there is no one who calls on your name, who stirs himself up to be strengthened in you. For you have hidden your face from us, and have consumed us because of what? Back to that crookedness. And now, O Yahweh, you are our Father. We are the clay, and you our potter. And we are all the work of your hand. I've said this before. What sense does it make for the clay to tell the potter how it needs to be handled? The potter knows exactly what he's going for as the end result. So, we are the clay. Our righteousness, what does it say about our righteousness?
Filthy rags.
Filthy rags. How filthy. Man, that word, when you translate that word for filthy, it's menstrual soiled. That's soiled by that of the menstrual cycle. That's what it says. That's what our righteousness is. So what is this? It is the body cleansing itself of what it no longer needs and did not use. And that is what he's saying is the example of our righteousness. So if we take our own stuff and take Yahweh's word and say, you know what? I know you said don't eat, but I think I'm going to. Anyway. This word, that word for that menstrual cycle, soiled rag, is aid. H 5708, 5708. And it's two letters, just two letters. And these two letters together, if you really think about it, is amazing because it's ayin. And ayin is your perception, your sight. Not the sight of Yahweh, not any divine sight. This is the sight of man. Your ability to observe. And then the dalet is the door. So here we are, where anytime our stuff from our head, from our vision, from our intellect begins to translate for us, we got to go all the way back to the garden. We have a problem. We can't tell the difference. Without Yahweh, we cannot perceive with our human eyes the difference between good and evil. We lost it in the garden. We look at everything and it's confused. We look at it and we get confused. How do I know that? What did Hava say about the tree? After she was given a twisted doctrine on it. It was good for food. She saw that it was good for food. So here we are. There was a commandment given not to eat. Now, we'll take this one step further. We're going to do this at a couple of different levels. One, they were told what? Not to eat. And there's a big discussion. We've had this discussion a whole bunch, and can't say that I'm choosing a side here, but it's determining whether this message, because when the message was given, Hava or Eve was not yet created. So we kind of thing. She wasn't yet created. So the thought process is, well, it was given to him. He was told. So, okay, got that? He was told. Him, he was told. But who did Hasatan go to? Her. And what did she know? That she wasn't supposed to eat. Regardless as to whether she was told or not, she knew she wasn't supposed to eat. Because what was her response? We're not to eat of that. He told us we could eat of all. Did he tell you that everything was not good? Twist. Everything? Didn't he say everything was good? Shake your head with me. Yeah. Yeah, he said that. And now he gonna come back and tell you that everything ain't good, just that one thing? Surely he won't die. Come on, it's a twist. He took the word that Yahweh gave to Adam, twisted it, and went to Hava with it. And so now what happens? Now let's take this literal. Let's take this literal. Right now, today, Yahweh said we can find Torah that says, don't eat that which is unclean. What's the first thing people say? He was talking to them. That's first step. He was talking to them. Okay, but who knows it? You, just like Howard. Yeah, you shake your head now. Yeah. You know it. So, the same thing that got us in this place of confusing good and evil, because now we have knowledge of both. So now we have knowledge of both. We're like, I don't know. It looks good. It smells good. It tastes good. It must be. How many things does our flesh crave that's not good for us? That's what our flesh craves. It craves the things that are not good for us. That's why our righteousness as of filthy rags. That's what this crookedness is. It's twisting truth. Twisting truth. Let's go back a little bit. Isaiah chapter 2. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 4 through 8. We're going to read. Chapter 2. Chapter 2. Isaiah chapter 2, we're going to start at verse 4. And just read a couple verses there. And it reads, and he shall judge between the nations, and shall reprove many peoples, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither teach battle anymore. O house of Yaakov, come and let us walk in the light of Yahweh. Man, this is the only way that would work, right? Get rid of all swords and spears and guns and nukes and all that stuff. The only way it could work is if we're walking in the light of Yahweh. But verse 6 says, for you have forsaken your people, the house of Yaakov, because they have been filled from the east, and practice magic like Philistines. And they are pleased with the children of foreigners. And their land is filled with silver and gold, and there is no end to their treasures. And their land is filled with, what else? Horses, and there is no end to their chariots. Look what else is there though. And their land is filled with what?
Idols.
Idols. They do what?
Bow themselves.
Worship this stuff. Bow themselves to the work of whose hand? Of their own hand, to what their own fingers have made. And so here we are. When we were looking in Deuteronomy chapter 29, he was preparing them to enter their land, right? And they're going through this time now where he says what? He says, you know what? There was a time when you sojourned in the wilderness, you sojourned in Egypt, you sojourned in Canaan even before that, and you've seen the other people and their idols and their worship of these false gods. But where is this? Where is this? Verse 8, it says, and their land is filled with the idols. So now these idols are in your land. And now you're bowing yourselves to the work of your own hand. And now your crookedness has led you right into the hands of another God. And now you yourself have to figure out, how do I get back on track? There's only one answer. We have to come back to the laws, the statutes, the commandments of the Most High. Stop. Only answer. Because anything else is filthy rags. It's our righteousness. Now the scripture says that you are wise to do evil. And what does it say after that? Learn to do good. It says you are wise to do evil. Y'all, guess what? He said y'all good at this stuff. Y'all understand. Listen. We about to go into the season and everything about to change. Everything. I'm talking about, you're gonna see some of the most dynamic, artistic expression on full display. All of it. I mean, one of the baddest arrangements of any song is a Christmas song. And you hear it, you can't just give it all the words, because this song is fire. You are wise to do evil. So here we are, we have taken these traditions of man and made them great and enjoyable. And oh my goodness, there cannot be anything wrong with this, because when I look at those lights, oh my goodness. You know, people gonna be on December 25, people gonna be speaking in tongues. So thankful for the day he was born. Listen, we've got to learn to do good. We're wise at evil. So all of our stuff, what does it say? Filthy rags. Something your body was expelling. Waste. It's done. Your body's expelling your righteousness. Let's go to Jeremiah. Jeremiah, we're going to look at chapter 2 in Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 2. And I'm going to start bringing it in. Bring in your pen. Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 21 to 24. And it reads, "Yet I had planted you a choice vine. All of it is true, all of it a true seed. How then have you turned before me into the degenerate plant of a strange vine? Although you wash yourself with lye." Man, this is serious. He said, you doing all you can do. What does it say in Deuteronomy 29:19? I looked at myself, heard the curses, and said, I have peace, though I walk in the stubbornness of my own heart. That's what this is, the stubbornness of my own heart. I have peace. I don't wash with lye. That's what this says. Although you wash yourself with lye and use much soap, yet your crookedness, your iniquity, your twisting, your perverting, your truth. Not the truth. Your truth.
Right. Right.
Yet your crookedness is ingrained before me, declares the Master Yahweh. How do you say, I am not defiled? Come on, y'all. Everybody who got kids, y'all have been through this at least once. And I'm absolutely sure a whole lot more than once. But that kid will swear up and down, I did wash under my arms. You smell like onions. You could not have. You can't. There ain't no way. You wash good. I washed good. I did. Okay. Verse 23. Side button. Side button. Power button. Power button. The mute button. Your phone must got 10 buttons on it. You're going down the list. So, he says in verse 23, how do you say, I am not defiled? I have not gone after the Baals. This is what people saying. I'm not defiled. I don't serve no other gods. I just like Ishtar and Tammuz and Easter, all that stuff. I just like that stuff. But I ain't going after no other gods. These are the other gods. Hasatan doesn't like put a stamp on it that says approved by Satan. He's not doing that. I done told y'all before. He don't have big horns. He ain't red. And he probably know how to talk real good. So much so that Hava looked at him and was like, oh, you seem like a good person to have a conversation with about life. And come on, y'all. He ain't coming, he not coming with stuff, that's so obvious. So this is how this verse can be true, and it says again, I'm going to start back. It says, I am not defiled. How do you say? I am not defiled. I have not gone after Baals. I have not gone after lords. See your way in the valley. Know that you have done a swift dromedary, breaking loose in her ways, a wild donkey used to the wilderness, sniffing the wind in the desire of her being, in her time of mating, who turns her away. All those who seek her need to weary themselves. In her mouth they find her. That's why I had a picture of that donkey. Let me go back to that. Because that can be a very stubborn animal. And that's what this is speaking of. So now there's nothing you can do to stop this donkey from doing what she wants to do. And he's saying this is who you are as a donkey in the time of mating. That you don't care how wrong it is. That you don't care how many times you've heard it or how many times you've read it. You would rather do what tradition tells you to do. Do what the world tells you to do. Why? Because it feels good. It tastes good. Sounds good, smells good, look good, must be good. I promise you that's not how it works. I promise you. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 8. Where will crookedness lead you? To be a wild donkey? Refusing to do anything that her master or his master tells him? Because it's that time. Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 10 through 13. And so I saw the wrong ones buried, and they came and went from the place of set apartness. And they were forgiven in the city where they had so done. That too is futile. Because the sentence against an evil deed is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is filled in them to do evil. Let's pause there. Let's pause there. And I hate to keep using the same examples, but I'm going to keep using the same examples. Well, my grandma ate bacon every day of her life and she lived to be 103. Okay. So let's get this right. Because she didn't die, the second she put pork, which is forbidden to be eaten, in her mouth, that makes it not wrong. That's what this scripture is saying. Because the sentence against an evil deed is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is filled in them to do evil. In other words, I know Yahweh said don't do this or don't do that, but I've been doing it and nothing has happened. So it must be okay. Verse 12. Although a sinner is doing evil 100 times and his life is prolonged, yet I know that there is good to those who fear Elohim, who fear before him. Y'all, we have to be settled in that. That it doesn't matter that there's not a swift judgment. It doesn't matter that I don't drop dead the very second that I do something that Yahweh said don't do. I have to know that even though a sinner does evil 100 times and nothing happens to them, I know that there is good to those who fear Elohim, who fear before him. Verse 13, but it shall not be well with the wrong one, nor would he prolong his days as a shadow, because he does not fear before Elohim. So we have to know within ourselves, no matter what. Y'all, listen, I did a teaching on rising without leaven. We know leaven represents sin. Let me explain to y'all something. You look at, for example, let's take this example, the wealth of this country. The wealth of this country is as it is for what reason? Slavery. Period. Slavery. Everything else after it is on that foundation. Everything else. Listen to this. If you go to any corporation right now, any corporation, I don't care who it is, any corporation, and you say to that corporation, give me every labor cost that you have, I will break it down to where it may be 1% of what it usually is. Do you think you'll be successful? Every single one of them would take that deal in a New York second. Because labor is every corporation's biggest cost. It's the biggest line item. You got to pay people to do the work. Biggest line item. And so if you don't have to pay the people, but they still have to do the work, all you got to do is give them enough food not to starve. They still hungry. But just give them enough not to starve. Give them enough clothes not to freeze. They still cold. Just enough not to freeze. Give them enough medical attention to stay alive. They still sick. They still hurt. But they alive. That's it. And then the second that they're no longer valuable to you, just kill them. Oh, and by the way, put two of them together and make some more. And that don't cost you nothing. Come on, y'all. That's the leaven that it took to get this going to what it is. And it rose. So we can't look at that and say this must be a blessed place because look at where they are. people look at us and they say, oh, it's only 30, 35, 40 of you guys, 50 of you guys on a given Shabbat. My church has 10,000 people. We had 500 young people run to the altar today and say, what must I do? And we told them, your name is written. See how many people you saved today. Don't be fooled by the hype. Don't be fooled by the hype, because what you can see here is it says a sinner sins 100 times and his life is prolonged. That's not reason enough to operate in sin. Not reason enough to operate in crookedness. We gotta know that no matter what it looks like, that number one, y'all, guess what? Newsflash. Truth ain't popular.
That's right.
Right.
In reality, y'all, listen to me. Listen. Reality TV ain't even reality.
That's right.
They call it reality TV, and then they script it.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
Nobody likes truth. It's boring. I'm gonna just go to somebody's house and watch them, you know, what they usually do. Come home off work, you know, catch the game, get on the computer and do a little work real quick, have dinner, talk to the kids, ask them about their day at school, help them with some homework. Ah, that's boring. Let's make the little one slap the big one. That's boring. People don't like truth, y'all. They don't. So we know, we just have to understand one thing, that the hardness of our heart can be the crookedness and the twisting that leads to us saying, I have peace, though I walk a twisted doctrine. I have peace, though I walk a crooked path. I have peace. So let's recognize, y'all, our righteousness is as a filthy rags. The only righteousness we have, is His. Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Hear it growing loud, songs from every nation rising to your throne. Saints from every generation singing for your glory, telling what you've done. From the north and south, we are